Hey YouTube, well it's Monday, I guess Labor Day, so that means we do twice as much as we do any other day to celebrate. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this. The boards that I got from that pine log yesterday are already in the kiln drying, and they're 1-inch boards. Now this stuff here, this siding is 5/8 down to 1/4 of an inch. So all I did was I put some stickers underneath this just to get it to dry. I want the face of it to dry so that it'll absorb some of that wood preservative. I'm going to put that copper coat on top of this because I want to try using this on an area that I put vertical siding on, and it's looking a little deteriorated, so I'm going to try putting this on. Somebody had asked me whether or not siding is good in one of the comments for, does it last? And the thing is white pine siding has been used for hundreds of years in this country. Now naturally, they start off with white pine logs and then they go to white pine siding as things progress, and now we're away from siding because we want vinyl, which we don't have to do nothing to. You do have to occasionally do stuff to wood, but pine siding has been around for hundreds of years. Now this stuff is really some nice siding. Even though that log was bent like it was, look at the knots in here. They're mostly all pin knots. Okay, so that means that it was a good strong tree, good healthy tree. It was going to be good for, there's a longer knot there, but it was going to be good for no matter what we cut it into. This one hardly has any knots in it. Now there was a little bit of a split in one of the boards, or in one of the part of the log, and I ended up with a little piece there, but what I need is 16 foot. I'm covering a 16-foot area. These are 8-foot, 3, so I won't have any trouble with the siding. It's a piece of white oak here. So I just want to try to get it to dry, and naturally today you can tell it's dreary looking. It's starting to rain right now. So you look at the, I don't know if you can see the raindrops, but it's starting. So I was going to open the sawmill up and get going with this, but I decided that I'm not going to do that. Instead, my wife wants me to come over there and do some work in the greenhouse because our pepper plants are getting so overloaded that they're falling over, so she wants me to tie them up. So that's what I'm going to go do now. These are the plants she wants me to tie up. Man, it's really pouring now. Well, since we're having nothing but rain, I decided to work on this table again for a little bit. I had let it go yesterday because I didn't want to have to be inside. What I'm doing right now is I'm just making the two table sections even with one another. The inside here where the heart goes down in, I have to do that with a file because I can't really get in there, or a rasp. I really can't get in there with a sander. So once I finish shaping that, I need to cut the legs and all. So I'm going to cut the legs for this, and I'll get back to you on what it's going to look like then. Before I start working on the woodwork, and one of the things that I really hate, and it's my own fault, is that when you know how to do a bunch of different things, you know, you jump from one thing to the other. One thing I do not like doing is I do not like being a mechanic and then jumping into woodwork, because first of all your hands are dirty, you've got grease everywhere. So I like doing one thing, finish it completely up, put stuff away, and then go from there. So I just came to put these injectors away here because I'm going to just save them. They can be rebuilt, and maybe I'll take them and send them off to get rebuilt. But here's the thing. Somebody had asked me to show the one that was bad. The one that was bad was the one that was hard to get out. Now I don't know if you can tell, but if you look, like this one and this one is a little better looking, the tips of them, than this is. But the only working part on the injector is the pressure pushes, I believe, this pin open, and a fine spray comes out of here. And you can see like how this one was a lot dirtier. I actually cleaned it off a little bit, but this one was dirtier than the both of them, and it was just hard to get it out because of the dirt that was in there and a little bit of corrosion. Now so there's really not a lot to show you other than, you know, this is what the tips look like, and you can see these two. Let me just try and get them all together here. Yeah, you can see the two are like a lighter color, metal color, and the last one there has a lot of soot on it. So without really testing them or anything, I'm going to have to assume that this first one's the one that was acting up, because that's where most of the black smoke was coming from. So anyway, that's what they look like. Someone had asked me to show that. So I need to bag these and put them away, and I'll probably, like I say, send them out sometime to get rebuilt. Well, it looks like it stopped raining for 5 minutes, and I love being outside, so I'm going to cut these legs out of this white oak outside here. One of the things I want to show you, we'll just bring the camera over here for a second. If you look at this wood, like, I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you can see it. See this like black spot here? This is mold forming on this wood. Now, you really need to be careful with how you're stacking wood. Now, I actually had this, believe it or not, on my wood pile to burn, but it stayed nice and straight, so I'm just going to use it. This is too far to the edge, so I need to cut a piece out of here and then use the other 3 pieces for legs. But what I was saying is you need to really be careful when you're stacking fresh cut lumber. Now, I'm going to come up with a theory here, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, and that would be fine. Because there's, let's say, nutrients in the tree when you cut it down, because they're coming out of the ground, they're moving up and down, and you know, and a tree is a living thing. And I don't know what all would be in the tree, you know, as far as the proper name for it. But I do know that if you put wood together face to face and leave it sit, it will get mold all over it. Now, sometimes that mold is easy to take off. You can plane it off, you know, easy. That's not an issue. But it tends to stain if you leave it get too bad, especially in pine. Now, this oak has been laying around for, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 months, and it's not really that bad. But pine gets very bad. I think last year I made a video of where I put some pine in my garage because I didn't have time to sticker it properly, and next thing I know, there's mold all over it, and it actually mimics what they call blue stain in pine, and it doesn't. I personally don't like it. I mean, I think somebody may like it. The blue is actually a nice shade of blue, sort of, but I don't really like it myself. So you want to be careful with the lumber. You know, once you cut it, you should sticker it somewhere. No matter whether it's in a kiln or not, you want to get it stickered so that it's not touching one another. That's where the mold comes from. first piece I'm not going to use because it had a little bit of wane on it. There was a cut in it there from the, looks like a chainsaw cut, and had this mark from the bark in it, which I don't want in the furniture. But you can see the wood is really nice white oak, very nice stuff. So these two I will use. I'm just going to run them through the planer to clean them up and to straighten up the cut that I made. Even though they look fairly straight with the handsaw, you know, they're not perfect. So I just throw them through the planer. One of the problems I have that I didn't have when I was young is that it's really hard for me to see the line sometimes. I don't need glasses, but at the same time, my eyes don't, what I notice they don't do is they don't focus from close to far away quickly enough, or light. When I'm in light and then darkness, I have a problem with them focusing. So it's obvious that this is the board that I cut the hearts out of. Along this edge here is a really nice, clear, straight grain piece of white oak. So I don't want to throw it away, even though I have all that wood everywhere. I don't want to throw this little piece away because it's actually pretty nice. So I'm just going to cut this off of here and then put it somewhere. It'll be 1.5 inches wide. If I plane it down, maybe 1.25 inches. You never know when you can use little pieces like this. The only thing is, like I say, you don't want to get wrapped up in having all kind of pieces laying all over the place. So I'm going to cut this off of here. And I also wanted to comment on something else. Not long ago, maybe about a month ago, I had gotten a comment that I should have, because of all the different things I do, I should have a homesteading channel type thing. I watch some homesteading channels, and some are pretty good. Some are, I don't think are too good. But the way I look at homesteading is like this. I look at it from the Daniel Boone days, where somebody goes out, finds a cheap piece of property, and makes that property, you know, build a living for them by planting food, and then in the day they would sell timber as well, which a lot of us have forgotten in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and now we're getting back to. But anyway, they would plant, they would sell timber, and they would use any natural resources they had to be able to accomplish goals and to be self-sufficient. Now that word self-sufficient, that's the main point. You know, back in the day there was no Walmart to run to, so I can't say that I never go to Walmart, because I do, and we do go shopping for food and stuff, but I like being able to grow things, I like being able to build things, and I like being able to repair and use what I have on the property to make things. You know, also I had gotten a comment not too long ago where somebody said they'd like to see something that the wood that they would like something finished that the wood came from the property. And that these benches, this white oak, now it didn't come from my property, but it's the same thing, because I could cut white oak down here, but I don't. The thing is you know, that's part of being self-sufficient. So to me then, homesteading isn't just, you know, how many chickens you have, and we do have some chickens, but homesteading is knowing how to survive and doing it without crying about it. So there are a lot of things that homesteaders do that are pretty nice. They work out pretty well. But I've also found out that, you know, where homesteaders try to make it seem as if they're completely living off the land, there's very few of them that can do that. And I don't see, you know, everybody that claims to be doing it. Of course, I don't know. Maybe they are. But I know it's very hard to do. So that's why I don't have what's, you know, what you would consider a homesteading channel. But I do look at this as a homestead, and I do look at being self-sufficient in every way that you can be as being like a homesteader, you know, which is, like I say, being self-sufficient and homesteading to me are the same word. So I just wanted to comment on that in case the person who made the comment is watching my other videos. I thought about making homesteading, and I think I made one video that referred to homesteading killing you, and only because there's so much work to it. But if you're the type that, you know, you want to keep going and stuff, and you like being busy, the homesteading life can be for you, as long as you have the knowledge to make things happen. I mean, you can learn to do woodwork, you can learn how to plant. It's not that you can't learn, it's that to start off, you've got to have some kind of backup. In other words, you've got to have some money, first of all, to pay property taxes. How can you possibly be a homesteader in this day and age if you have property taxes? Because if you do, I mean, in Pennsylvania, if you have 5 acres of property, you're talking, and a house on it, you're probably, depending on the house, you're talking about anywhere from $1,200 to $3,000 a year in property taxes. So, you know, you've got to come up with that money. And if you're living off your land, you might be able to come up with that, but you've got to cut quite a few trees down. You've got to sell a lot of green beans. You know, you got to do a lot of work to get $3,000, especially when corn's going for, you know, like 12 years for $2 or $1.50 or something like that. So it's a hard life. You have to, I think you almost need to have a big farm if you're going to be self-sufficient when it comes to food. But anyway, I do what I can do because I've tried to do it. I like doing different things, and I think that to call me a homesteader, I think I practice the arts that homesteaders practiced, but I don't consider myself a homesteader because I go to the store and buy food. Okay, I think homesteading should be exactly what it started off to be, like I say, in the Daniel Boone age, you know, where you went out, you killed the game for your food, or you planted, or both. You knew how to process food to keep it long enough to last you through the winter. I mean, you don't realize how many things you actually eat. Like say one person, I think one person could do well homesteading as long as they don't get sick. And that's another thing, you know, if you're a homesteader, you got to go to your doctor. You know, I don't have to tell people out there how much it costs to go to the doctor. You go for one test, it's $400. So it's really hard to come up with that type of money if you don't have some kind of a backup. For me, I have a pension, so, you know, it doesn't really matter. And my wife also has that. So we can't call ourselves homesteaders and rely on income from that, because homesteaders at the time didn't have that. Now, I guess there would be a modern age of homesteading, and maybe homesteading should be redefined for us modern age people, but anyway, I thought I'd answer that comment. You know, people, I had gotten some comments once. Carmine was measuring every board he was cutting, and somebody made a comment that he should trust the saw to do his cutting. And in most cases, if you have a good machine or whatever, you can. Let me just explain something to you about a circular saw. When a circular saw blade heats up, it warps, just like a great big saw blade. And when it warps, it cuts crooked. It has a flutter to it. So, depending upon how that flutter is, it may just make a wide saw curve, or it'll actually send you off on a tangent trying to make a straight cut. But what you want to do is not heat up the blade if you can help it. You want the blade to be good and sharp. And the other thing is, if you grab a hold of the blade You hear that? This blade bearing is moving back and forth. This causes the blade to wander. Okay? In other words, when you start to saw, if you turn the saw in either direction at all to get on your line, and a lot of carpenters do, they back out of the cut and restart it. It's almost like instinct to do that. And you follow the blade. You don't worry about the guide. The guide is not going to help you too much. I always watch the blade. I look around the saw at the blade and where it cuts the line. The point is, though, is if your saw blade moves back and forth, that's an issue. And Black & Decker's that I know of is the worst ones for that, their saws. Makita is the better ones that I've noticed. Now, I'm not saying that they're the best, but I like Makita. I have 2 of them, and neither one of them does this. So, just another little hint for somebody that might be starting out. So it's 10 minutes later, and now it's pouring again. I hate when the weather's like this. Have a good one, guys.